Welcome back to the apartment. And if this is your first time, welcome. This is the apartment. Missing is my co-host, Asif Ali. He just got back from Fiji from filming season 2 of TBS's #1 comedy, Wrecked. So he's kind of settling in. This is the apartment. It's our chance to sit with our favorite diverse content creators, influencers, comedians, actors, musicians, etc., and to hear their journey and their story. So this week, for this episode, NYU's Muslim Grad Student Association reached out to the apartment that they wanted to host a live event. So this was supposed to be back in like April that we were supposed to do the event, and I ended up breaking my arm in April. So I was like, can't do it next week, you guys. Let's push it for a month. We pushed it for a month. And we were talking to Hasan Minhaj, and he agreed to do it. So we had a great first live event. This was the first time that we've done the apartment outside of the apartment. And it was the first time we did it in front of 200 some students and just non-students or whoever came through. And it was quite an experience. I enjoyed it. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I don't know how I feel until this episode comes out. And when I watch it online, I guess I'll find out how I feel about it. But I did enjoy the experience. So this is a continuation of the first interview that we did with Hasan. The link for that will be in the description. So the first interview was mainly about Hasan's like come up and journey as being an Indian American Muslim comedian and how he got into the comedy scene, how he moved into Jon Stewart. And this was a little bit, this is kind of like a continuation of that. So check this out. We are also available on iTunes, on Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, the video is also available on YouTube. And just for the video people on YouTube, the first 8 minutes, we had a little technical glitch. So we weren't able to, one camera was out for 8 minutes. So you're going to be stuck just staring at Hasan for 8 minutes. But we touched on a lot of things about the Met Gala, his White House Correspondents' Dinner, a lot of things about his one-man show, which will be airing right before I start the episode. This is going to cut. So right when we end this intro, it's going to cut into his trailer for his comedy, his one-man special that will be out on Netflix May 23rd. Check it out. And then we have a little Q&A at the end, but that is going on our Patreon. So if you want to see bonus features, deleted clips, donate $1 a month, support us through Patreon, and you get access to these cool little things. So the next few weeks, we will try and be more consistent to go back to our weekly uploads. And that's enough of me rambling. Enjoy this episode number, I don't know, it's 20 something, with Hasan Minhaj.
I don't care what anyone tells you about our immigration policy. It's very difficult to get in this country. It's not like a broken condom where you're like, I'm in. You don't just... Americans hit their kids on the arm and bruise their body. Immigrants slap you across the face and bruise your soul. It's Guantanamo of the mind. We were in AP Calc together, but we had chemistry. That's basically the way our parents are. Ages 0 through 30, they're like, no girls, right? Then when you're 35, they're like, why can't you talk to girls? That's basically it. You're like, that would kill me. And my dad's from that generation, like a lot of immigrants, where he feels like if you come to this country, you're gonna endure some racism. But for me, like a lot of us, I was born here. So I actually have the audacity of equality. Like, I'm like, nah, I'm an honors gov. I have it right here. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. All men are created equal. Says it right here. I'm equal.
Our guest that I feel like everyone came to see. Clearly, you guys didn't come for me. Hasan Minhaj. Thank you.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
Headphones or preference?
I don't know. We're doing a private podcast in a public setting. This is cool.
Yeah, because usually when people come through, it's like in my apartment. It's literally in my bedroom.
Oh yeah, you guys know it's in his apartment, right?
That's why we call it
the apartment.
Yeah. So we're trying to keep the same vibe.
Yeah.
Given that there's like 200 some people.
I know. This is gonna be different.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, first of all, thank you guys for coming. Second of all, shout out to the NYU Grad Student Association and the Islamic Center at NYU for hosting us. Thank you to them. So for those of you who don't know, today we have Hasan Minhaj. Hasan is a stand-up comedian, an actor, a writer, a producer, amateur pickup basketball star, and a sneakerhead. We explored his origin stories on episode 6 of our podcast, where we dived into his history and journey. He is currently a senior correspondent on The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. He gave the highly acclaimed performance at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, which I'm sure you all watched. He wrapped his national tour for his one-man show, Homecoming King, and is now just days away from releasing Homecoming King as his first comedy special on Netflix on May 23rd. Give it up for Hasan Minhaj. He's an accomplished guy. So like this time last week, you were like in a room full of like celebrities at the Met Gala.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So when you go to like these events, and then now you're in a room full of like
celebrities. NYU celebrities.
NYU students in their finals week. Some of them are struggling to survive. So, I mean, like, when you're in this situation, when you're in these rooms, are you a bit jaded by now by being around these influencers? Or do you go in being like, yo.
Jaded? That was my first Met Gala, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I wasn't
know.
jaded. I was like, oh my God, why did they invite me?
Yeah.
But it was pretty cool. It was like being in Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's a very like... you know how like if you've ever woken up from you like wake up in the middle of the night and you're just like what did I just see? You know, it's like Nicki Minaj was wearing a parachute and then I saw like it's all those things and you're like, all right, I should just go back to bed.
Yeah. It's weird. I mean, like, did you kind of go in being like, yo, I was the most talked about man in America this past weekend?
I don't know. I mean, are you talking about the Met Gala?
Yeah.
There's very famous people there, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, there's like legitimately very, very famous people. So I don't know about
the day before, you were all the headlines for like a full day. You know, did you go in with people?
Yeah, but J-Lo is still J-Lo. You know what I mean?
That's
like
true.
I had like a 12-minute moment or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's cool, man. So you wrapped up Homecoming King. So the tour came to an end.
Yeah.
In about 2 weeks or whenever this episode airs, will be a week that it'll drop. How many of you guys watch Homecoming King live for the tour?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A good amount of people.
It's a good amount of people.
For those who didn't watch, what's kind of like the theme or the logline of the show?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like a first-generation Indian American Muslim story.
Yeah.
Love, race. We talk about like a lot of sort of what like my experience of what it was like to grow up around in America. So it's sort of that.
Yeah.
In a one-man show format.
Yeah. And which was crazy, So how did the show evolve? Not like the origin stories, not like when you first came up with it, but like over time, you already had it written, you've performed it. Because I remember you did a performance at the Comedy Central Theater in LA a few years ago.
And you came to that, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that was great. And then I watched it twice after. And each time I watched, it was a bit different.
What was it like for you when you saw it each time?
Oh, I love how you try to turn the tables on.
Yeah. Because I was just performing. Like, what was it like?
Well, the first time it was funny, it was great. This is what happens when I'm put on the spot. I say shit like that. No, the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, this is brilliant. Like just the way it kind of weaved in together.
Right.
And then the second time I watched it when you came to LA, me and Yusuf came to that show.
Right. The one at the Region.
Yeah. And that's when I saw the graphics and everything.
Right.
Well, it was a bit more polished.
Right.
Because you've done it so many times. And the final time when we were in Davis.
You saw the taping.
Yeah.
You came up for the taping. Yeah.
Yeah. In Davis, that's when you had like the platforms and the animation.
Yeah.
I was just blown away, and like everyone who left, including myself, was just inspired. I felt it. I felt that I related to it a lot. I felt just proud. I was like, yo, that's our dude right there, doing something really dope. So cool. And then, you know, I talked to you the other day. I was like, I needed a guy like you in high school to like on TV and media, you know, especially when you're like post 9/11, you're dealing with these dual identities, and you see a guy like you who's just proud, unapologetic, and just confident. A brown dude that's confident on TV. That's what it like. I wish I had that growing up, and you know, now we have an entire generation that like kind of look up to you. So for me, watching that, I
mean, there's definitely a lot of amazing first generation artists that are out right now.
Right
you
now,
know, like there's definitely sort of something in the chai or something like that. You know, where like people, you know, there's Riz, there's Aziz, there's Kamel, there's Mindy, there's a lot of really, really talented artists.
Rami Malek or Malik from Mr. Robot.
Rami Malek,
you know, and it's great to see everyone just kind of like see this wave of success.
Yeah,
now.
I think you know, for a lot of us, our parents immigrated here, you know, maybe 30, 40 years ago, and so now we've basically come of age to tell their story. I think that's really what it is.
I always say that we're like, making reference to Hamilton, I always say we're like the founding fathers. You know, like our parents were like the settlers. They came in, they had to navigate, they had to try to understand.
Right.
And it's our job to lay the blueprint out for like the next coming generation of the hyphenated identities, you know?
Yeah. But we're the third culture kids, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So what's third culture is it's wherever your ethnic origin is from.
Yeah.
So for you, Afghanistan, right? That's one of them.
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
But it's neither of those two things. It's this hybrid thing.
Yeah.
Like our kids ostensibly will be the first generation that won't have to know their mother tongue.
Yeah, yeah.
They won't be third culture essentially. I mean, they'll maybe, but it won't be like what we've experienced.
Yeah, where you're jumping.
Which is wild. That very distinct experience only exists for one generation, you know?
Yeah. Are you worried that down the line your like future offsprings and your kids are just gonna kind of lose that culture, that Indian identity or the heritage?
I'm not really. I used to think about that. I don't really worry about that much anymore because I think it's more of like just pick or choose. I think they should pick and choose what they think is the best. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know how much I want to like force anything. You know what I mean? Like I think that I had this line in the show where like you treat things like biryani where you move the good stuff towards you and you just push the weird stuff away.
Yeah.
I would hope that they make those same choices too. I don't think there's anything specifically like that. I feel like, oh, you have to do this. Like, you know, they're not my property or anything like that. I would hope that they choose the best things based on like the merits of those things, not just because they're tied to a specific culture or whatever. Yeah.
Going back to Homecoming King.
Right.
I saw the promo, the Netflix promo. Incredible. The entire artwork, even leading up, had this like Norman Rockwell.
Oh yeah. So Sam Spratt was the art director.
Okay.
And he's incredible. He's done art design and art direction for Logic, Janelle Monáe, Donald Glover. He's really, really a really talented dude who I fell in love with his ability to sort of capture like Rockwellian Americana, but then put new protagonists inside of sort of that sort of narrative storytelling style. And so when we first met up, he really liked the story and everything that Homecoming King talked about, and he thought it would be so cool to have protagonists of color, these sort of Rockwellian American scenes, but flip them on their head and put protagonists of color in each of those scenes.
Yeah.
So there's this great Rockwellian painting of a family in a grocery store. In the art design for our show, he put it in an Indian grocery store.
Yeah.
But it's painted the same way. So it's like me and my dad. Same thing with like the bus. There was like this iconic Rockwellian painting of a kids on a bus.
Yeah.
And he did the same thing. All the kids on the bus are white, and then I'm the only brown kid on the bus. He was just really great collaborating with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You totally evaded my first question.
What was that?
How did it evolve? How did the show? Because you.
Yeah.
Because like, all right, so like one was like you had your cousin, and
Well, actually, one of the whole acts changed. Act 2 changed completely.
In LA, when I first saw it at the Comedy Central thing, you had a whole thing about a bullying, being able to like, he foreshadows his bullying.
Yeah.
And then the second time I saw it, you had that bit about your cousin in the Snickers bar.
Right.
And then the third time, neither of that worked.
Right. So it's interesting. Like, I was, working with my director, Greg Wallach. One of the big themes in the show is Lokiakenge, what will people think? And, Greg isn't, he isn't from a South Asian background. Greg's a white dude. But one of the things that he thought was so powerful when I first started working on the show with him, it was a lot longer. It was almost like a creative vomit. The show was like 2.5, 3 hours long. And then we pared it down and found a narrative theme that threaded everything through. And then when he was like, what is this? What does that mean? Because I would say parts of it in Urdu. And, I was like, Lokiakenge means like, what will people think or what will people say? And, he was the one who was like, that's one of the most pervasive issues in humanity. Like, that's everybody struggles with that idea of like, oh man, like, what are people going to think of me if I do this? Like, everyone is sort of hedging their life. Major life decisions are being hedged based upon the perception and thoughts of others. So he's like, we should find a way to make that the thread for every character in the story. So what were you thinking? What were you worried about other people thinking? What was your dad thinking? Like, what did he worry about other people thinking? What did Bethany Reed think about? Like, and sort of flipping those things on its head. Yeah. And I think there's been times where we've all made decisions where we made the wrong decision based on what other people would think about us, And so the story about bullying and stuff like that was an interesting story in the early iteration of the show because it was a time where I folded to that, and I just by virtue of time, you only have 70 minutes to do the whole show. I thought it was, I still like that version of the show, but it was cool because it was one of those examples where, I'm doing someone wrong and I'm admitting that, Yeah.
And for the promo, where did, the inspiration for the graphics look dope with the tie and the everything coming together, the music, where did the music come from?
So our musical composer is this guy named Ludwig von Goranson. Okay. So Ludwig did the music for Community. He did the soundtrack for Creed. He did Donald's early mixtapes. So he did Camp. He did all of the early Childish Gambino mixtapes. And he's a great television, film, and music composer. Okay. To me, I think he's like the next Hans Zimmer. He's a savant. He's extremely talented. And so, when we were talking about composing music for the special, he got it immediately. Like he understood the sound and the emotions that I was trying to convey, like this idea of nostalgia, childhood, innocence, love, and sort of have like a hip hop, like have tempo to have it be a song that you walk out to and have it be a song that you close to. So he was able to do that, and his experience made him very good. It made him the guy to choose, to do it. Yeah.
Your show touched on race relations, right? So, but do you think there's like a deeper, like internal racism at hand? And it kind of goes into like white being the symbol of like success,
right?
Because like I feel like a lot of the shows,
but I think a lot of those narratives are based on like my mom and dad want me to get an arranged marriage. That's whack. Like, why would I do that? Like, to me, I wish there was another layer added to that story of like, well, who are you attracted to? Yeah. Like you don't have to be like every narrative is like, oh man, like they want me to go meet some person in this Shadi.com meetup or something. But but what if you're like, I don't want to meet someone through Shadi.com, which I don't, I'm not knocking that, but I kind of am. But what if you were like, but I also like, but I do want to marry. I'm attracted to brown girls. Yeah. I wish, and Chris Rock touched upon this, and he had a Hollywood Reporter article where he talked about just the way casting of relationships are. So if it's like a black male and a black female lead, it's considered a black show because both characters in the story are black.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's like, if Will Smith is chasing, Will Smith's paired with a white female protagonist, it's considered to be more universal. And to me, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks that it has to be just this pragmatic casting choice of, all right, we're going to get all the black people by casting Will Smith, and we'll get all the white people by casting Scarlett Johansson or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And that sucks, because I would hope that the tropes of just being in love, that would translate to being as broad as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately though, like my take on the whole, what is your stance on this person being, the male or the female being a minority and the other person being white, or vice versa, is it gets very it's a nuanced thing, because it can get messy and it can get complicated very quickly.
Yeah.
I think love is actually one of the few things where we can overcome tribalism. So I don't want to place judgment on who anyone loves. The thing that I find whack is when you're saying one is better than the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah, for sure. To kind of like transition out of that,
right.
Go in a completely different direction. You work in satire, and I feel like even before you were doing the Daily Show, you were doing your goat face bits, right. And that was a lot of satire as well. Right. And even back to your earlier short films when you're doing it with Imran and Sumair.
Right.
I was listening to this podcast called Talk House Film, and there's this British filmmaker, Adam Curtis, and he was talking about how like satire played a role into Trump's victory. It was a lot of these shows, they depicted righteously, in my opinion, they depicted Trump supporters as like these like moronic hillbillies, again, justifiable in my opinion. Do you feel like satire played a role in the victory? Like, cause a lot of it was targeted towards his supporters,
Yeah. I faced the same question where, when I was going into the White House Correspondents' Dinner too, was like, to what extent do you just represent an entire group as a monolith? Yeah. And I think Jon Stewart had a great interview recently about this, where he was like, look, like people that voted for Trump, they're not entirely a monolith either. There's a myriad of reasons why they voted for him. Yeah. Look, I would say this. This is a joke that never made it into the dinner. Okay. But it's like this. A lot of people blame the media for Trump winning. They're like, the media is the reason Trump won. Like, and you should go. People were telling me early on, go hard on the media. Be like, you guys are the reason why Trump won. The reality is this. That's true. They showed empty shots of his podium, and they showed empty shots of just his plane on a tarmac.
Yeah.
So they gave him a lot of free advertising. At the same token, I've been watching television the past 31 years of my life. Mm-hmm. I have yet to buy a slap chop. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have aired Big Bang Theory reruns for 12 years. I've yet to see an entire episode. The point being is this. You're going to buy a slap chop if that speaks to you. Mm. So, like, this doesn't speak to me, but it's the number one selling product on QVC. So that's what it is. So he played the greatest hits. Yeah. For, I think, certain people that spoke to them, and for other people it didn't. Yeah. But so, to people, just for people to say like, oh, you guys made him win. No, just like any dictator or any, political leader in any country that has a democratic election, they are voted in by choice. Yeah. So people were complicit in that. They made their decision. And so I think it's one of those things where satire, there's this argument called like we have this liberal elite problem where we talk down to other people. I don't know about that. I think that everybody's expressing their opinion on both sides of the aisle, whether it's The Daily Show or Hannity. There's ridiculousness on either side, one could argue. But I do think that the necessary condition is people getting up and actually voting. Mm-hmm. So I think, and John has said this, there is no song, no joke, no TV show that actually makes people do stuff. The necessary condition is people actually getting up on their feet, voting or protesting or actually causing political action. The only thing we can hope to do is cast some sort of lightning bolt that is timed at the right time that inspires people to do something. That's at best what a piece of art can do. So I think to blame SNL or The Daily Show or Samantha Bee or whoever it is for, oh, you guys caused Trump, or CNN, oh, you guys made Trump, that's not entirely true. It's a piece of the puzzle, but the necessary condition is the people themselves.
Yeah. About 2 years ago, you and Reza Aslan wrote this open letter.
Right.
And it was on, at that time, why the Muslim community should support the same-sex marriage bill.
Right.
One, what made you speak out? Well, I mean, I guess just one question, like what made you speak out about such like a taboo topic in our communities,
right?
In our community, in the Muslim American community, and address it in such a public manner, given our community's history with homophobia?
Yeah, for me, it was one of those things where, for better, for worse, I have to be honest about how I feel, about things. And I think that if I want to speak up on issues that matter to me, because I specifically have skin in the game, like Islamophobia is wrong, you guys shouldn't deface mosques, support for a myriad of Muslim American issues, those are civil liberties. Yeah. So to me, it felt like this. Civil liberties are an all or nothing game. You fight for everybody's equality or none of it. Yeah. A rising tide lifts all boats, otherwise it's all a sham. It's not pick or choose the stuff that makes you comfortable or that aligns with your specific. Yeah. For me, that's the way it worked for me. So I felt I would be hypocritical if the day the SCOTUS decision drops and it's silence in the newsfeed, and a lot of my friends were just like, hey, just play it back, like play it safe, don't say anything, like you have no skin in this fight. But I'm like, the same civil liberties that allow them to have same-sex marriage is the same civil liberties that allow us to congregate and pray and to not be discriminated against. So I decided to speak up and say something about it. To me, it wasn't a stance on what is your religious stance on this. For me, it was about, hey, this is the right thing to do in a fair and equal democracy for everybody. So look, but to me, if I didn't say that and then I spoke out on behalf of my own issues, then it's, to me, I'm a farce. I'm a sham. So I didn't expect anybody else to do that. That's irrelevant. To me, it's being about just being authentic and honest to who I am. Yeah.
So how did the collaboration come about? Did you reach out to him like, hey, I want to write this piece and publicly address this issue? Or did he reach out to you? Or
did you guys
have a conversation?
There's a bunch of friends, just other creative people that I talk to and trust and stuff like that. And, I was just texting and talking to them, and, that decision in our lifetime is going to go down as it's of the magnitude of Roe v. Wade, Plessy versus Ferguson. It's of that magnitude. And to me, what I thought was wild is, given the magnitude of that decision, for us to be sort of silent on the sidelines is kind of whack. And Reza was one of those people that was like, yeah, I feel the same way, and we should write something about it. And so we decided to just collaborate and do something.
Okay. Yeah. To go in a completely different direction. So Aladdin is now, they're working on casting.
How do we jump from? That's crazy.
It's the apartment, man.
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Yeah.
So from homophobia to Aladdin.
Right.
So they're casting right now for the lead. For the movie itself, the live action movie.
Right.
Rumors are going around that they're considering you for the lead.
That's not true, bro.
You sure?
That is not true.
Okay. Or you're not allowed to talk about it right now.
That's not true, man. That is not true. That is not true, man.
I think you'd make a great Aladdin.
That is not true. That is not true.
What do you guys think?
That is not true.
Okay.
That is not true.
No, I know. I was just...
Yeah, you know that.
No, but like I only kind of bring that up just to segue into representation in media. Mm-hmm. The film industry is kind of like notorious for whitewashing characters that were already people of color.
Yeah.
Do you feel like an Indian playing an Arab or an Arab playing a Iranian is a step up or step down in like the habit in the film industry? Because it's kind of like, would we rather have this explicit misrepresentation? Because it's kind of like just paint us all
the same.
Yeah, like we're just all just brown and we're just interchangeable. You know?
Right.
Or or do you not identify with that, or do you think there needs to be like Arabs play Arabs, like everyone should be equally represented in that regard?
That's a tough question, man. I don't know. That's really hard. Yeah, because on one hand, it's like, it gets tricky because, you know, if you look the part enough, like, is that a component of it? You know, it gets pretty tricky. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like, I feel like the British and the American thing.
What's your take on it? How authentic should they keep it?
I'm super hypocritical.
Why do you say that?
Because I strongly believe that Afghans should play Afghans. You know, I need my representation there, and I think Arabs should play Arabs, and not like, we're not interchangeable. We all have different identities, different backgrounds, and to just be like, oh, we can just take this guy from like thousands of miles away from this country and play Latino, you know?
Right.
I mean, like, how many Latinos have they casted to play Arabs, and how many, you know, even in House of Cards, they had that Indian lady play a Latino. Right. That's my personal take.
Yeah.
But then when it comes
to, we've talked about this though. I think it's intention versus impact. Yeah. So if they are legitimately really, really, really trying to cast, I'll give you an example. Let's say they were like legitimately really, really trying to cast, I don't know, an Indian superhero. They're like, we need this guy to be an Indian superhero. And then Idris Elba comes in and reads for it and just kills. Yeah. And they're just like, he's doing it. Like, he's really, really doing it really well. Yeah. And we think that, do you know what I mean? Like, then what's the argument? Like, what's the...
It's like, why would we pass up on this when he is the role?
Right, but I'm waiting for that HuffPo article about, like, why Idris Elba as the da-da-da is problematic. Like, jeez.
Yeah.
So how, again, it's like how a lot of times that stuff behind closed doors can't be measured, but I think everything that you see that feels really authentic and real is because the casting and the creative and everybody behind closed doors really put the best of intention into the product. Yeah. You can taste it, you can feel it. Like, you're like, oh yeah, this feels authentic. So that's the biggest thing to me. Anything that you really, really like, it's generally because it wasn't like factory made. It was one of those things where they really went to the ends of the earth to find the best possible fit for it.
And, you know, like, Night of, you know, Riz's dad was played by this Iranian actor who portrayed Pakistani, but I feel like they still did enough. You know, they put in that effort, you know, like they kind of had a lot of the nuances, a lot of the details on point, and they kind of did their research.
And I actually have, to their credit, I have seen like casting notices being like, we are looking for like a Pakistani American blah, 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 blah. Like, they're like, we are looking. Please,
you know,
come.
And I
like, we are looking for you to deliver this. And so but I think that taking that step forward has allowed people like Riz Ahmed to shine, you know, and be like, okay, he can come in and he's an incredible actor. So, I think as long as that intention is there, versus like the Matt Damon China movie,
which was kind of like the next part, but like
that was the Great Wall, right? Yeah. How did he get there?
I don't know, man.
That to me is the intention. Is we need a movie to play overseas. Yeah. And that audience loves Matt Damon. Yeah. So we'll just put Matt Damon in China.
Yeah. And it was actually like a Shanghai produced film too, you know, and it had a Chinese director. Right. But I feel like they had to make that compromise. Well, see, the hypocrisy, to address the hypocrisy, is like, I believe in this, but then when it comes to my short films, I'm like, shit, like, you play that character and like, I'll just mix and match.
Because you just have to cast it.
Yeah, because I'm on a time crunch, man. Like, I don't have time to like sit for a casting call.
So I think the intent versus then just when rubber meets the road, when you're like, all right, we have to get this done. Yeah. And I think any director, you know this, you're just like, I need the best person to deliver these lines. It needs to play. Yeah. You know, because the audience at home wants it to be great. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. Okay, but like now, kind of like Matt Damon's was just weird, but he didn't replace an ethnic character. You know, like there's this recent wave of replacing these people of color with whitewashing them. You know, for example, there were just rumors about Leonardo DiCaprio playing the Afghan poet Rumi. You know, and then people were outraged, like. The excuse and the argument was, but it's going to reach a wider audience and introduce this new poet to a wider audience if we have Leo as the main role. But I feel, what are your thoughts on that?
I think, look, it goes down into like intention versus just stark pragmatism. Yeah. So it's both of those things. If you can have, my biggest thing, you know, that why I advocate so much for amazing artists of color, female artists, any POC or artist from a otherwise marginalized group really breaking and making it happen is because then they can counter that pragmatic argument of, look, we just need butts and chairs. Yeah. So that's why we have to cast DiCaprio. Yeah. But as, you know, Riz's star begins to shine brighter and other people begin to take on these roles and just dominate them. Yeah. Then that argument becomes a lot tougher. You know what I mean? They're like, well, we have a real legitimate choice here, you know? Yeah. So that's the thing is like, what are the things that we can do as artists and creatives to make that excuse virtually irrelevant? Yeah. I mean, what was the Scarlett Johansson movie that she recently did?
Oh, like Something in a Shell or Ghost in a Shell?
Was it Ghost in a Shell, right? Yeah. Who do you think, and this is just me being starkly pragmatic, who is a Asian American actor that can fill up the box office at a AMC theater in Tempe, Arizona?
Yeah.
Is there who would it be?
Who's that guy from Walking?
The Walking Dead dude?
No, but he's Korean though, and this was a Japanese role.
But do you think he could?
Oh yeah, dude.
That dude?
I mean, like it. Who's watching? Because I don't want to spoil anything about The Walking Dead. But
what's his name?
Steven Yeun or
Steven Yeun. You think Steven Yeun, if he played it?
Yeah, I think so. But you know, I think it comes even down.
He would be as big of a box office draw.
This was
Scarlett.
Did
it not do well?
No, it flopped. It didn't even make its money back.
Oh wow. Yeah. So then in that case, then cast it authentic.
Yeah. But the thing is, like,
that's what you know what I mean. Like,
I feel like this year proved that you don't need recognizable white actors or actresses to have, like, you know, you look at all these, like Moonlight, right? You know, all the actors outside of Mahershala, you know, were like top bill names, you know, but the movie did so well, right? And then there were just so many other ones that's
why I think that if actually like trying to crack it at the biggest studio level is kind of like, maybe that's not the best way to go about it. Yeah. Like, all right, let's try to break into this movie that's trying to make $1 billion at the box office. If you do it through a Moonlight, or if you do it through, you know,
like Hidden Figures.
Yeah, a Hidden Figures or something like that, where it's just like, it feels more like an independent project. Yeah. Where you really can take that TLC to like cast it perfectly, and you don't have to sell toys and Happy Meals or anything like that. Like, I think that's the best way to maybe go about it. And then you do legitimately build star power in that. That's why when people are like, what's the big deal? What's the big fuss about these people winning awards? Remember when Oscar was so white? Yeah. To me, I'm like, those awards, just like Grammys, legitimize the artist in the mainstream public. Then you become vetted as a Grammy-winning artist or an Oscar winner. Mm-hmm. So you become a bona fide commodity that works. You know? That's why those awards matter. Mm-hmm. And I think the types of movies, the great thing is the types of movies that can win those awards oftentimes aren't big studio films. They're more independent projects, you know?
Yeah. You know, I want to go back and revisit what we talked about back in August for the last episode of the podcast that you're on. Your work ethic, you know, again, I want to bring it back to that. So we know comedians that are just naturally gifted. It feels like comedy is just like they wake up and they're just like these great comedians. Right. But one thing that you've always had is just this great work ethic that kind of stood out. And I feel like mainstream America kind of recognized you from The Daily Show on. Right. But what they didn't know is like it took like 10 plus years of hard work to get there. Right. So the question is, can you talk about where your work, where it comes from? and how you apply it.
I mean,
like, where did it come? Like, were you like, this is, you know?
I mean, everybody here has great work ethic. They're at NYU, you know.
True.
So I just, you know, I think I just treated comedy like it was medical school or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, this is. I've disappointed my parents, but I'll work hard at this, and, you know, hopefully it'll work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, treat it like it's a real job.
Yeah. Because I mean, you were about to get into law school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would have sucked. That really would. I'm sorry if anyone here is going to law school. But yeah, I was pretty close to going. Yeah.
Okay. So then, but like, where did it come from? Like, when why did you feel like you had to treat it like you're going to med school or you're applying to law school?
Well, I mean, I'll just say this in comparison to a lot of kids that I know and I knew growing up, I'm very lucky. I'm incredibly grateful for two things. You know, who I chose to love and what I chose to do are things that I purely chose. There's no asterisk next to either of those two choices. And because I have that, I have immense amount of gratitude. So to me, I'm like, I got to go all in, because who I chose to be with wasn't shaped by the community or my parents or anybody else. And what I choose to do wasn't shaped by any of those things. That is 100,000% me. So I'm all in. I'm not hedging anything. So to me, the fact that I got to choose those two things means I feel like I'm incredibly lucky. Yeah. And so I just don't take that for granted. So I just want to, you know, always have a good attitude and always just give it my best, you know?
Yeah. You always talk about loving the process.
Right.
Like, what do you mean by that?
Like, the majority of what you're doing is like just getting it ready. Like, even like the dinner, you know, like that was 25 minutes and it flew by. It went by so fast. But the 3.5 weeks that we took prepping it, taking it around New York, doing, you know, 5-6 sets a night, then listening to it, rewriting, changing stuff, getting rid of stuff, building it. That's 98% of it, you know. Like, yeah, you know, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you don't love that, then it's going to be a very arduous process. You're going to really not enjoy comedy or whatever, acting or whatever it is that you want to do, painting, you know, like it's going to be really, really tough. Yeah. You have to kind of like bombing. You have to kind of like tanking. You have to like if you're making beats, like making bad beats, you know, you have to just kind of like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Rodriguez, I remember I was in film school. I read his book, how a 23-year-old with $7,000 became a Hollywood player, and shortened up, it's called Rebel Without a Crew. And in it, he was like, if you want to be a filmmaker in film school or when you're first starting out, do as many films as you can. Right. Because you have a bunch of bad films in you. Just get that out the way. Get that out the way so you hit the gold. You know?
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the process, you know? What's the Muse Cage?
Oh, Muse Cage. I still don't know what it is because I haven't watched it.
Okay.
But that's like that's what Kobe calls it when you get focused. Okay. When you like sort of like
is it a documentary or is it a commercial?
What is Muse? I mean, is the documentary? It's part of the documentary. Okay. But he has a documentary called Muse. Okay. But like basically where it's just like you create an environment. It's kind of like you create a study environment. Yeah. Where it's just like, this is where I sort of just create, you know? So like for me, you know, getting ready for the dinner was just like, it was my apartment. We had a bunch of whiteboards and sticky boards. And then it was just every day writing out all the material, starting from just minute 0, having just a vomit of ideas. Only 2 minutes work, and then 22 minutes suck. Yeah. Listen to it all back. All right, then add another minute. And, 19 minutes suck. Yeah. You just keep, like, adding to this little thing that you build every day, little by little by little by little. And that's kind of like, and you kind of have to block out all the other nonsense. You kind of have to just be like, this is this is all I care about, you know? Yeah. And that's kind of what it was like for, you know, getting Homecoming King ready, like getting it ready for special. When we were editing it, it was the same thing. Just like, you can't, I don't know who's playing in the playoffs. I don't care. I don't care about new season of House of Cards. I don't care about any of that stuff. Like, this is the thing. And then you just really have to block all that stuff out and just hyper focus on that stuff until you get it right too. Yeah. You know?
So what's the Pomodoro? Pomodoro?
Oh, Pomodoro method.
Pomodoro method.
Oh,
yeah.
so I have ADD. Okay. I have like severe ADD.
Same,
I think. Yeah. So it's basically just like a clock method where you do something, you do a task for 25 minutes, and the buzzer goes off, and then you have like 5 minutes to just do whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can break a task into Pomodoros, because if you even, you know, you notice this, if we get bantering, like we can go off topic forever. Yeah. But if we're like, all right, we got to talk about this one thing, or we have to write this one thing, all right, 25 minutes, and then the other 5 minutes we can like get up and get a drink of water, go to the bathroom or whatever, you know? Yeah.
Okay. So to transition into the White House Correspondents' Dinner.
Right.
First, like, you talked about the minority experience.
Right.
You know, and
now that you guys are minorities, just for this moment, you might understand the position I was in. And it's the same position a lot of minority kids feel in this country. And it's, you know, do I come up here and just try to fit in and not ruffle any feathers? Or do I say how I really feel?
And how honest were you there? Or what did you say that you wish you wouldn't have said? And what did you not put in that you wish you would have? Or was there a lot of things you kind of took out that you were like, I can't say this, you know?
Okay.
Or this goes a bit too
far.
No,
you know what, man? Knock on wood. I have no regrets. The only regret that I had is I wish I had water on stage, because by the time I got to the end of the speech, like my mouth was dry. But there was Jeff Mason who was sitting next to me. And he had a cup of water. And I was going to drink his water, but then I was like, if I drink his water, then that becomes a news story. Like, is that a thing? Like, I'm disrespecting the president of the White House Correspondents Association. Like, so to me, it was just keep your foot on the gas. Like, just keep going. You know how your mouth gets dry, like the end, when you're fasting or something? That's what it was like at the end, you know? It was like bad. But I'll say this, like, what was good is I worked with an incredible group of writers. I'm a head writer, Prashant. You know Prashant. I have some great writers from The Daily Show: David Angelo, Hallie Hugland, Lauren Sarver, like a really Raj Desai from LA, Mike Drucker from LA, like these really talented writers from a wide variety of backgrounds, which again, like, that's one of the best things that I've gotten out of comedy, is surrounding myself. That's the beautiful thing about arts. It's you surround yourself by people who don't believe the same things you believe, think the same things, from different backgrounds. It is the best thing for your heart, mind, and soul. So I had writers that were extremely conservative. I had writers that were extremely liberal. I had writers from different backgrounds. And the best thing that they were able to do is I presented what I wanted to say, and they were able to give me feedback in such a way to be like, hey, just so you know, like, be aware of this, and this. There's specific potholes that I knew I would hit. You know, first being like, I'm one of the youngest people to do it. So I'd be performing in front of a bunch of journalists who are far older and more experienced than me. So if I come up there and I lecture them, they're going to just roll their eyes at me. You know, you got people like Wolf Blitzer, Jake Tapper, people that have been doing it for a very long time. You can say whatever you want about their merit or ability, but they have experience. They have that. And they'll be like, you don't know. I've been to war. You don't, so you can't lecture me. So to me, it was, what is the narrative framework or the cognitive device that I can package this in where I can actually speak on it and be like, hey, this is just my personal perspective on it because I've experienced this. And so I wanted to talk about sort of three main things. I had a very unique position where I think, you know, I had the country's attention for a very short period of time to summarize what's been happening over the past 100 days in the country. And I was like, well, what's the biggest thing that would define this past year? I think it's three things. Number one, there is no such thing as objective reality anymore. Like, you get to pick and choose your truth based on whichever blog or podcast you listen to. You can create your own personal news feed of reality. Like, Donald Trump introduced the idea of fake news, but liberals and conservatives have fake news. I could tell you something and you'd be like, I don't believe you. Jesse Waters from Fox News could come up to me. Sean Hannity could be like, you have mustard on your shirt. I'd be like, I don't believe you. Why? Because I don't trust you. And that was point number 2, that objective reality isn't as important as trust. Trust is more important than truth. And people who support Donald Trump just trust him. He can be a pathological liar. He can flip-flop, but they trust him more than they trust the MSM mainstream media or the liberal media or whatever. They trust what he's about. The sad reality is the truth is still the truth. That doesn't change the fact that the truth is the truth. But it took me to the third point, was that because the truth is still the truth and the most important thing ever, the job of journalists and artists and creatives and anybody who's presenting a narrative out there for the public to consume is that you have to be better now more than ever. Like, you have to be perfect. You have to be twice as good. And then when I was riffing this, I was like, oh my God, that's how minorities have to think. Like, you got to be twice as good. You can't make any mistakes. When one of you messes up, they blame the whole group. I'm like, oh shit, journalists are the new minorities. And so I was like, if I can construct the arc of the whole speech to get to that point, by the end, hopefully they'll have realized that I'm not coming from a place of malice. I'm coming from a place of like, hey, I'm rooting for you guys. But if you wanna survive the age of Trump, you got to think like a minority, which I think was a fair position to present. And I think luckily both parties were able to come to the table and be like, all right, that works for me. The audience was like, okay, that's cool. Yeah, I can get with that, which I lucked out.
Yeah. Was there anything that you felt last minute you were like, I got to take these out,
Yeah, there's so many jokes that we had to cut because it's like you want to singe, but you don't want to burn. So there was a lot of jokes that were just straight up ruthless. Like, that said, like, I had a Donald Trump has a mental illness. It was like Donald Trump was speaking in Atlanta yesterday to the NRA. He recently signed an executive order making it even easier for people with mental illnesses to get guns. Oh, wow. So in case you're wondering, Donald Trump is loving his new gun. You're implying he has mental illnesses, right? Yeah. But it's like, if I make that joke, that's a distasteful joke.
Yeah.
I can make fun of his merit. I can make fun of like the stupidity of the decisions he's made, but to just blatantly be like, you have a mental illness, even though there could be arguments for that, it's not. Again, like, to me, it's like I want to get to my final point, and if I want to land that point, I have to be tasteful. And so if I make it about the things they've said and the actual policy positions they've had, not that like, oh, Steve Bannon looks like a bunch of chicken cutlets stapled together, which, but if you do the stuff about his position about being a white nationalist, or Jeff Sessions, using the N-word, these are things that these are actual things about them, the choices they've made. To me, that's fair, and I'm willing to fall on that sword rather than he looks like this. Because keep in mind, the same thing could happen with me. They could just be like, this guy looks like a blah, blah, da, da, da. So name calling in that way, to me, is just cheap. And I wanted to land my final point. If I do it about merit, just like if someone makes fun of my merit or the mistakes that I've made that were choices, rather than like, he looks like this, or like, look at his eyebrows, or whatever it is they want to make fun of you for, that to me is just a fair, sharper way. So I wanted it to be more surgical, like tactical, like I'll take you down point by point by point by point. That way, when I get to the final landing point, you're like, all right, even if I don't fully agree with you, you've presented some good arguments.
Yeah. I mean, weeks before, Trump mentioned that he wasn't going to attend the dinner, but what if he was like, I'm coming without announcing?
I had a card ready called DEFCON Orange. I was like, if he shows up, I'm ready. Yeah.
So you're gonna just switch the narrative.
Yeah, the narrative switches. Then it becomes less about, all right, well, let's focus on the media and talking about the First Amendment, and then it would switch to, okay, he's in the room. Where are we as a country the past 100 days? And then how does truth and trust play into him being there in the room? And I think, look, as a performer, you have to assess the things. I had the same thing with the Congressional Correspondents' Dinner in June. That was specifically the big elephant in the room on the table was gun control. Yeah. And it was actually in front of Congress. So they're the ones that determine that issue. So you just have to assess all the variables and then do that in real time.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like that kind of goes back to your work ethic. I mean, like we've all seen like the previous dinners, and it's just kind of like joke after joke, burn after burn.
Right.
But this kind of felt like there was like this narrative arc to it where it's like, okay, I'm going to start with this and then move on to this, and then the narrative is going to go here, you know? And I feel like, you know, how was that like, obviously it was a conscious thing, you know? But how long did it take you guys to get to that point instead of being like, oh, we're not going to do just joke?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was just, I wanted to play to my strengths. So more of my strength is sort of like comedic storytelling.
Yeah.
So if I can construct, you know, this is the narrative arc that I want to go on, that plays to my strength. Whereas Seth Meyers is an amazing monologue joke guy. Yeah. He's fantastic. So he's able to set up punch. He's able to start and stop. That doesn't play to my strength. So very quickly I knew I'm not going to focus on trying to do what other people do well. I'm going to try to do what I do well.
Yeah.
And just quadruple down on that. So knowing what doors to close is very important. That way you know what door to go through.
Yeah, and I feel like were other people encouraging you to like say this, or like you should use this joke?
As I got closer to the dinner, yeah, because then a lot more people started finding out, oh, he's working out the material here. So people, you know, started like crowding in, and
other comedians
and just other people were just like, oh, you should do this. Like, oh, you should burn the building down. Like, go in there and just be like, bring the lights up. All right. Start with you, you know, like everybody has that perspective until you tell them to go do that at their job. And they're like, wait, hey, whoa. All right. Well, you know, at Kinko's, you can't do that. Like, it's oh, got it. Okay. So you want me to just like throw everything away.
Yeah.
I think to me, it was just like, that again, it comes down to then you have to be, when you're working on something like that, you have to be very careful about that process. And I'm sure like I have friends that have taken the bar that get like that, the DAT, MCAT, whatever, like as you get closer to the day of, everyone's whispering nonsense, like whatever, you have to just really be like, all right, this is, you're out. Tools, clear history. I'm not thinking about what you're saying. I'm going to stick to the game plan.
Yeah. One last thing. So advice for kids, not just kids, but like kids of color and even the young adults in this room who may be in the same spot you were when you were kind of starting off, where their parents were pressuring them to go to medical school, then pressuring you to go into law school. You know, what kind of advice would you give them to be like, because they might have a passion in art or entertainment or media, but they're being pressured to do something else. What advice would you give them into, like, I hate the term pursuing your dreams, but in doing what you want to do?
I just think I can't tell you, you know, I don't have a brother. Like, say I had a younger brother. I don't have a younger brother, but let's say he also wanted to do comedy. Yeah. I would tell him the same piece of advice I would give him if he wanted to be a rapper, or if he wanted to even be a doctor. Yeah. I remember I had this conversation with somebody when I was, my freshman year of college, I was pre-med. And I remember a friend's older sister came and visited us. And she was like, do you want to be a doctor? Like, do you really want to do this? And it's like, well, I don't know. Like, I hear it pays well. So if I have like an Escalade with rims, I'll be happy. And she was like, you're an idiot. Yeah. That's like not what it's about. Like, you have to really want to do this. Yeah. Because the mundane day-to-day process stuff is going to eat away at you more than any toy you can get from it. Yeah. So the piece of advice I'd give to anybody pursuing anything is like, just pull the trigger on your life. You are the person so you got to live with your choices. So whether you hedge or whether you go all in on whatever career it is, it's on you. Like, Ami and Abu aren't going to help you. Your brother and sister aren't going to help you. It's on you. So it's your life. Yeah. So I don't hold any judgment on like whether you want to, whatever career you want to pursue. Yeah. You know, you just got to be okay. You got to make your bed and sleep in it. So I support that. Just make sure you're the one that's pulling the trigger on it.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And to wrap it up, we got some rapid fire questions, super quick.
Sure.
Favorite song right now?
Ooh, favorite song. DNA, Kendrick Lamar.
Oh,
it's a good song. It's a good song. It's a good song right now.
Favorite food?
Favorite food. Favorite food. Just of all time?
It could be all time or right now. Or
right now?
It could be both.
Favorite food right now? I don't know. Macaroni and cheese. I like macaroni and cheese. Like when it's done proper, you know, like when you go to a place, it's like really good. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I like that. Favorite movie?
Favorite movie?
Yeah.
Oh, I was talking to you about this, Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, you know,
Bronx Tale.
Actually,
oh man,
right when I left.
Man, I'll tell you my favorite scene from A Bronx Tale.
Okay. Tell me.
You know that scene where he's talking about the girl he loves? Because in A Bronx Tale,
the door.
Yeah.
The door story. Or
yeah, but who's the actor he talks to? That older actor.
He wrote the film. The guy who tells him how to like.
Yeah.
The lock story.
If she doesn't open the door
I forgot
for
his
you.
name, but he wrote the film.
He wrote the film.
Yeah.
The scene where he goes, and this goes back to what's your advice for any. So he goes, he's Italian, right?
Yeah.
He loves a black girl. It's the 60s, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I don't know if people are calling us names and this, that, and the other. Should I do it? And he goes, look, man, when you're alone with her at night, you know, are you okay with yourself? Are you happy with the decision you made? Then F what everybody else thinks.
Yeah.
But it's one of the best pieces of advice of like,
yeah,
you're going to have to quiet everything else out. You're going to have to understand this is the choice you're making in your life.
Yeah.
Are you okay with it?
Yeah.
Are you at peace with it? When you're alone,
yeah,
are you at peace with it? Then go with that. And just there's so many great like gems in that. I love that movie.
There's that one scene where Robert De Niro's yelling at his kid after he kind of catches him with the neighborhood squad.
Is that the one where he's like, there's nothing worse than wasted talent? The biggest,
so. I think so. And he's just like yelling at him. He's like, I broke my back. And it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I was actually
and the whole movie is like, it's shot like a play. It's like, it's amazing.
Yeah. I was going to tell Sumair after I left because you're like, oh, you like those kind of gangster films. Have you watched Sopranos?
No, I haven't seen Sopranos.
I just started season 1
of
Sopranos. And I think you will like it. One thing that's a little, it's like they keep referencing these mafia films in the show.
Oh, really?
And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of meta, but it's off-putting, you know? It's like, oh, we're going to keep referencing The Godfather.
Right.
Anyway, okay, moving on. Favorite book because you're an avid reader.
Oh, man. The book I'm reading right now, which is hilarious, is this book called The Sellout.
Okay.
It's really funny.
Yeah.
It's really great.
But like, what about your favorite? Like, you got to go back and read it again.
Favorite book to go back and read again? Oh man, I can't answer. I don't know.
Okay,
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
So right now, the Sellout.
But The Sellout, yeah, and that book's really funny.
Favorite city?
Favorite city?
Don't ignore who's in the room. Because I hate New York.
No, but everybody here is probably. Is everyone here from New York?
I don't care.
Favorite city? I have different favorite cities for different reasons. San Francisco because that's where I became like good at comedy.
Yeah.
New York is one. What else? What other city did I really like? Yeah, I would say San Francisco and New York. Those are my two.
Okay, I heard a rumor that you used to say Allen Houston was better than Michael Jordan.
100% true. You
still agree?
No, I don't agree with that sentiment, but I've always been I am very anti-groupthink.
Okay.
And so Michael Jordan was such a big, huge pop culture icon that people that didn't even like basketball were like, I love Michael Jordan. So to counter that narrative, I picked Allen Houston, unfortunately. Okay. Yeah.
Should Knicks trade Carmelo?
Sure. I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
We had help from our sports producer.
Got it.
Warriors or Cavs?
Cavs.
Okay.
Oh, boo. You're really a Warriors fan? Come on.
But weren't you at the Cavs game?
I was there.
No. Okay. Yeah.
I was there. Yeah. Game 7.
I didn't know who you were supporting.
You didn't know how to. Okay.
I was like, NorCal.
I grew up in Davis, so yes, Sacramento Kings, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I thought you like. I generalized. I thought NorCal was all.
No. I don't round up that way.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to pick and stick. That's another one of my rules. You got to pick and stick.
Gotcha.
You got to pick your You got to pick what your team is.
Okay.
And you stick. So for me, it's Sacramento Kings, and then everything else is just virtually irrelevant. I have no skin in the game. If the Warriors win or if the Cavs win. Yeah. But it just the bandwagonness of the Warriors or the Lakers. It rubs me the wrong way. I don't like it.
I feel it.
Yeah.
if a book was written on your life, what would the title be?
Skip that question. Come on, man. I don't like that question. That's too I'm too young for that question. That's that's a question you would ask on inside the actor studio to Robert De Niro.
I used to.
What's the title of your book? You know what's crazy? Barack Obama wrote a book
Audacity? Or
Tales from My Father or whatever. He wrote that at 32. Isn't that crazy? When he wrote that book, he received a lot of criticism to be that young and to be that reflective about my life. That was a big criticism from to be a 32 or 33-year-old guy is just these are my musings about my life. Yeah.
Okay. I used to use that. That was the only reason I put that in there was because when I was at Nickelodeon, I would meet with all the executives and and I would ask them all these questions. So at the end, I would always be like, it's fun to hear rich white people comment about what they think.
What the thing, but it's interesting. I'm making fun of that, but with to be an author and to write your own memoir at 31 or 32. Yeah. But then Nas did Illmatic at 19.
Wow.
So it's how do you, do you know what I mean?
I feel you.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll skip that. And the last question, what's your favorite podcast?
The Apartment.
Hey. No. Outside of the apartment. I haven't
really podcasted the way I used to back in 2010, 2011.
What?
Yeah.
Podcasts were around back then?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
We talked about this when we first met. I was like, "You should listen to this podcast."
Yeah, and that was 2014. But,
yeah,
that was still just not that long ago.
Yeah,
but I didn't think.
But I don't listen to them as much anymore. I really liked Gladwell's podcast. The episode on the satire paradox was really great.
Oh,
I really loved that.
Yeah. How people both sides were supporting Colbert and everything.
Yeah. That was really interesting.
Okay. I want to just thank you for.
Thanks for having me, man.
Time, man. I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Before you go, I gotta shout out our sponsor real quick.
Who's our sponsor?
Adidas.
Really?
Yeah.
Shout outs to Adidas.
And these were written by our other co-host who was not able to join us, Asif.
Okay.
From Fiji. He's filming season 2 of Wrecked on TBS. Everyone should check it out. So shout out to Asif. Yeah, shout out to Asif and shout out to Adidas. When you want to look like an Olympic runner, but have the body of a competitive hot dog eater. Adidas. That was a straight shot at me. But I still read it. Adidas. You're either in college or in the mob. Adidas.
Okay, give me the next one.
Adidas. When you want to look somewhere in between regular clothes or pajamas. Adidas. Also, last but not least, shout out to our producer, Sumair Khan. Came out with me.
Hey, there we go.
It's been there since episode 1.
What episode are we on right now?
23, 24.
Wow.
Yeah. We're just inching. We took a long, that's a different story for
okay.
time, man.
Cool.
Appreciate it. I know
Thanks,
everyone.
Man.
Do you want to take
let's do some Q&A.
Real quick questions. Thank you for sticking around for the entire time, and thank you to everyone who showed up to the event. We really appreciate that, and thank you to the organizers. Make sure to hit subscribe. Please subscribe to the channel, and if you enjoyed this episode, share it with your peers. That is how our channel can kind of grow, is just through word of mouth, And also, we have a new sponsor. Shout out to Wendy's. Always fresh, never frozen. Wendy's. And next week, I don't know who we have next week. We're in the talks with a few people. And check out our last episode with Jay Versace. That episode's doing pretty well. It's probably our most popular episode. And I'm excited for the next few months and next few weeks, because our guests are almost confirmed. And once that happens, blah, blah, blah. I'm rambling now. So yeah, go ahead, make sure to subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, give the podcast a great review, 5 stars, 8 stars. I don't know how many damn stars are on iTunes, and just write a positive comment. So please, if you can go out of your way and do that, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a hate comment. Check out our social media. All the links to social media is in the description. And hopefully I get to see you guys next week, man. Thank you for hanging out with us. Appreciate it. Bye. feel like I'm missing something. I hate plugging things. Did I get everything? Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah. Blah. I don't know. I think I covered everything in the intro and outro. See, I should take notes. I should be writing down notes. I'm going to be editing this in a second, and I'm going to be like, oh, man, I forgot to say blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I'm done. I don't know why you guys are sticking around. You guys should have cut this off like 20 minutes ago.